At the bottom, we have Mr. Cedric Malone. Can I hear you? Cedric Malone.
I'm here, Brother Paul.
And we have Dr. Leon Jeters to the other left below me. How you doing there, Dr. Jeters?
Good to see you, Brother Brown. Good to see you.
Great, great. Okay, tell the audience a little bit about yourselves. And first of all, I want to tell you, each one of you, that it was an honor for me to pledge back in '82 with you. And I love each one of you. And this is 38 years ago that we did this. And we have, tell the audience a little bit about yourself, because it's an honor for me to just have y'all here today. First, we're going to talk to Mr. Wilfred Rogers. Tell the audience about yourself and what you're doing right now.
Thank you, sir. I met Paul and pledged with him in February of 1982. And we were all together at Benedict College, and now I am administrator at an alternative school in Columbia, South Carolina. We do alternatives. We have an alternative program in the Richland County School District #1, where we try to change the lives of students and get them on the right track. I've been doing it for 29 years, and if the Lord's willing, I don't have much longer to go in the school system. It's about time for me to retire.
Below him, we have Cedric Malone. Tell the audience about yourself there.
Born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri, and then came to Benedict College in 1981 and met up with the line that's now the Endangered Species in spring of '82. Started preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ when I was 18 years old. And now I'm the pastor of the Greater Mount Zion Baptist Church, been there for 25 years. And I'm also the chaplain since 2004 at the Roanoke City Jail.
Now we have Leon Jeters. Tell the audience about yourself there.
Well, first of all, it's always difficult to follow distinguished gentlemen as you guys are. But I guess the issue is that we all met when we were young men back at Benedict College. We met it as primarily as that initial line of endangered species, and been friends and brothers and family ever since. And that's a long, long time. I'm originally from South Carolina, Low Country. Graduated Benedict, and after that I went to New York to be a filmmaker. And fast forward from filmmaking and things like that, I got into a lot of career changes and advocating for social justice issues, and eventually became a criminologist. In long story short, got a master's from John Jay, got a PhD. Currently, I'm the department chair back at our alma mater, Benedict College, where I oversee the Criminal Justice Administration Social Science Building. In addition to that, I also created and launched and operate now the Benedict College Cybersecurity Center. So basically, I think that it's very important for all of us that we were all, young leaders and young strivers committing to community service. And to this day, we're all still, we hold that creed dear. So it's good to be here. Good to see everybody. Glad to be a part.
Okay, and we have missing on the line, we have Willie Lee Thomas. He had a game, I think probably he had to attend, or, he's a coach, big time coach and stuff like that. So he wasn't able to be on the show. And we have that went on to be with the Lord. We have Mr. Marcellus Morris, who recently has passed, and Mr. Wayne Spellers. We call him Spooloo. All right, gentlemen, tell the audience a little bit about Wayne Spellers and Marcellus Morris. Probably gonna talk about Wayne Spellers or Spooloo, which was known as Salt and Pepper because of KP and him. Go ahead, gentlemen.
Go ahead, KP.
Well, I guess that's an important piece, and it's interesting enough. Of all this, it was 7 of us, as they would normally say. I think 9 young men were selected, 11 were selected. 9 showed up at the bell, and after day one, only 7 of us remained. And that's an important sort of iteration of this particular line. But Wayne Spellers was so you can say the heart and soul, the energy of our line. I mean, he was a good guy, a passionate guy, intense young man, but he was serious about his life and loving and caring for people. But he was a hellraiser too. I'm not going to take that away from him. But I think the idea is that he and I we were like oil and water. I mean, we became the salt and pepper team, the Dukes in the trade at night and the day. We were pretty close, and I think he was that lightning rod for our line. And I think that, and when you think about how someone grows, I think by the time he graduated, he too found the Lord. He became a pastor, and I think unfortunately he ended up passing, in a car accident, while going to do the Lord's work. And so I think that speaks so dearly to this entire line of how committed we are to service and have been to service. But he was definitely one of those kind of cats who had the energy. He was in the room. He was on the yard, and you had to look out because if he and I got together, it might be a little problem. But yeah, that was my man. And then I would also say the other piece about Marcellus Morris, who's the other member of our line who recently passed. Once again, I mean, he was a caring kind of cat. But one thing about Marcy was that guy could not sit still for a minute. I mean, he was always, he had marbles under his feet. He was always on the go. But he was a creative kind of guy. He was that, I'm pretty sure you guys remember his favorite line to all the brothers, "I will make you a paddle." The boy promised to make a paddle to every 5,000 brothers and made only one, I think. But he was because he was too busy. He was always on the go. But that was Marcy. I think you have to remember him for that. But also he had heart because, as I said, it was only 7 of us online, and I don't know anybody before or after who could have endured what he endured with us and still stuck it through and saw it through, finished the process. But he was a good guy as well. He made the species what it is. We all are characters, but Marcy and Spoo were definitely 2 unique characters as far as that goes.
And also, like you said, Marcellus danced to a different drummer. And,
Yeah.
while we were all together doing things, Marcellus might be on the outside peeking in to make
Yeah.
sure he didn't have to endure some of that stuff.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And
Oh
then
yeah.
he
Oh
would
yeah.
come in
Oh
and
yeah.
laugh at us. But he
Oh yeah.
was a good brother. He was a good brother, but
Yeah.
we used to call him the invisible Q because he had ways
Oh
of
yeah.
disappearing whenever we needed him.
Yeah. And some people might say he was the smartest Q.
Exactly.
You know.
And I think for
Yeah.
myself, the biggest thing I remember about Spulu is I was number 1 in the line, then I had KP and Spulu was behind me. And I think I hated more either seeing the big brothers or them 2 coming behind me because they caused sometimes more problem than the big brothers because them 2 was like always together and they 2 were always cut. And then Spooler was able to, he would comprehend things faster because I think he was in that music. So he was able to cause a lot of problems. But then again, he was able to comprehend a lot of that literature and stuff. And I was like, oh God, he's causing a lot of problems. And then again, he's able to comprehend and memorize. So, that's one thing that I really admired about him. He was a good bro and stuff. And he kept us going. He kept the line going. As far as Marcellus,
Yeah.
just like I said, we hardly ever saw Marcellus, but he was a good bro. He was from Charleston, and I saw him. We saw him sometime. He hung in there. He did his thing. But I really appreciate Marcellus and Spulu. We had a great time on that line.
Yeah, and I would just jump in and say, just for the audience, in fairness, that Brother Paul Brown was the ace of our line. He was the head of the tail, so to speak. And so therefore, we went as Paul went. If we had to get out of the room and hit a door, Paul was the first to hit it. And just for your audience, Brother Brown, and I'll let them know as well, we used to call to this very day his big brother Twilight Zone because he was in that zone. He got locked in, he was locked in. Another good brother that led us through the sands to this very day. So we really want to give him a shout out. and thank you for bringing us together today. But Brother Paul Brown, you're not absolved, son. You was right with us.
And Paul, because you remember, if Paul got something wrong, we all had to get it wrong. And, and if Paul
Exactly.
got something right, we all had to get it right. So he was a true
Yeah.
trailblazer before his time.
Brother
Absolutely,
Lance would say,
absolutely.
"Oh, what did Paul say? That's what you're supposed to say."
Exactly.
Oh yeah. Oh yes, indeed. And then Brother Paul was on. He was in ROTC at that time, so he had a different mindset about precision, being on time, getting it right. And we were all ruffle kind of cats, and he was sharp and militarized. But that was the good old days, though. Definitely the good old days on the yard.
Because you
Oh man.
remember, Paul liked to follow orders. So if the big brothers
Yeah,
told us to do something, Paul was he made sure we did it, even though we were trying to find ways to get out of it. Paul,
yeah, oh
and
yeah,
if Paul went, then we all had to go.
oh yeah, oh
Yeah,
yeah. No doubt about it.
Paul made it hard on me being the president because
Uh,
I would be thinking up little deviant things to do, and Paul would argue me down. No, Prez don't do that. I say, I said, Paul, we don't have to do that. We the
Right.
ones
oh yeah,
pledging.
Well, being
oh
that I
yeah,
was the first one that they would come to, I had to kind of like tell the truth because of the fact that, they were going to look at me first. And I would look
yeah,
at
Because you
y'all
didn't
down the
know how to
line. I
hide.
know y'all be looking at me, what he's going to say. So I had to do a lot of thinking. I saw a lot of the big brothers, they were on in ROTC at the time. So I saw them a lot of times. So, it was just the fun of just being with each one of y'all. It's just
yeah.
that joy of every day, just meeting up at the bell.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
You know, it
And I,
was it was good too because our line was now that we look back, it was balanced because
mhm,
like we had Paul who was the sharpshooter, then we had KP and Spulu who were the renegades, and then Cedric and I and we were more the sort of the conscious. We tried to reason things out too much, and Willie Lee was the athlete, and Marcellus danced to a different drummer, so we were well balanced. And when we got together, there were a few things that we couldn't reason out of because everybody took a perspective, and that's how we got over a lot of times.
yeah, yeah. And I would also add for anybody, especially old school folks, especially 38 years in the fold. So we came in the 80s, and that was a different time for Greeks and fraternities and sororities back in those days. But what really made a good line other than us coming together was we had a compassionate, innovative DP, Darryl Gray, our Dean of Pledgees. And so that makes a great difference on what the line becomes and the process becomes, especially in those days. If you had a good DP, how the process went was very different. And I think we had a good DP that allowed us to grow and become who we became through the endangered species. So definitely a shout out to our DP and also our neophyte commandant. Brother Jonathan Griffin, but those are the kind of those are the kind of pieces that make an official line a better line.
Don't forget, brothers. One of the most important thing is that we pledged 10 open weeks.
Oh yeah,
We had
oh
to
yeah,
speak.
oh yeah,
We had to speak to every brother. We had to speak to every
yeah.
delta. We had to speak to every omega pearl or QSs.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
So
oh yeah,
we caught it.
oh
And
Then
then
yeah,
at one
yeah,
point, we
finally,
had to speak to every Greek during Greek week. Do you remember?
oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, that's the whole process. You had Hell Week. Well, no, you had Greek Week, Black Week, Hell Week, Turn Back, Probate Show, Death March. I mean, see, when people talk about Greeks and fraternities and how things have changed, that was standard in the early '80s and before. That was standard. Now today it simply is a different kind of thing. For various reasons. But in '82. The doors were open, the campus was wide open. Anybody who wanted to come, visit with us, came to visit with us, so to speak. Things like that. But those are the kind of things that made character. Unify the bronze bonds of brotherhood. That experience right there, you can't take that back, and you can't substitute that for anything. You know. And I'm not going to talk about our stepping, our probate show. I think our probate show in front of the library, which they don't really do a lot anymore these days. But once again, you're talking about we were entertainers. Despite what we were going through, we entertained the crowd. You know.
Also, we
Yes.
were we brought back the large line.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Gentlemen,
Two
being that y'all were at Benedict College, and Benedict College was in the middle of South Carolina, how important was it that y'all were able to meet the different brothers from different schools all over? We were kind of like in the middle.
Oh yeah, I mean, I would just say that was great. I mean, when you're in the capital of a state, which Benedict is, and so everyone, the only major port, everybody through the city, everybody want to come to the city. And one thing with Benedict was that we're the heart of the city, and you could not come to Benedict and be abroad, not come to Columbia and not come to Benedict College. And you had an opportunity. I mean, I remember back in the day. Blue Road Chapter, when brothers came to the college, they didn't have to worry about food. They didn't have to worry about a place to stay. We got brothers jobs. I mean, if you made it to our doorstep, we got you. And I think the brothers knew that as far as what makes a good chapter, a supportive chapter, and that was East Square. We were building bridges. With Zeta, the Mu Sig, all those guys knew that if you could make it to this yard here, you good once you got here. Whatever you needed, we got you. And I think that was a legacy that we had and we built and we left when we all graduated.
Indeed, because it was nothing for us to pile in the Lampmobile and go visit other campuses and meet brothers, and then extend that invitation that whenever they came to Benedict, they would always be welcome. Because a lot of times, chapters would be exclusively to them. A lot of them wouldn't, they wouldn't be open to other brothers coming in. But we kind of, like you said, we kind of built that bridge to let everybody know it is a brotherhood. You come and see us, you're welcome. And at the same time, whenever we came to them, they would welcome us too. And that kind of started the trend back up again.
Yeah, and Brother Rogers, go ahead and describe for the audience what the Lampmobile really was. I mean, when you saw that Lampmobile coming, all seven of us packed into one car, it was amazing. But people knew who it was. So tell me, what kind of car was the Lampmobile, Brother Rogers?
Oh man, the Lampmobile, that was my heart. That was a 1955 Chevy Bel Air, 2-door. So two people could sit in the front. And 5 would have to get in the back seat.
Oh yeah, and
if no police were around, then we would sometimes put 3 in the front seat. But but everybody had to crawl in the back.
And remember that time the brothers, myself, and Big Man here, the Juice Boys and Herm and them boys kidnapped us with the Lampmobile and tried to take us to Zeta for a lamp party. The Lampmobile is legendary, man. It's legendary. Matter of fact, I remember one of our step shows in front of the library where we pulled a slow road in the Lampmobile, and we all came out the Lampmobile crawling to Atomic Dog. We had those masks on that time.
We had the mask, right, right.
Yeah, we came out the Lampmobile. Atomic Dog was playing on the boombox, and we all crawled out the Lampmobile up to the area there, and we turned it out. Talking about a step show. That was when stepping was stepping. When the boots hit the ground, the fire would be sparking. You could hear some miles away. A real step show. That's what we were about. We were steppers. Oh,
Exactly.
Even Brother Paul had a right foot and a left foot. He was putting down back in the day.
Oh, come on now. I was the lead dog, so I guess, they saw me. I mean, I was in the front. And what was it so important that y'all stood together during this time of pledging? That each one of you, watched after each other?
the commitment to brotherhood, what it means to be a true brother. I mean, it's a give and kind of take kind of relationship kind of thing. And I think that was one of the things that was built through that entire process that probably still exists today.
But you know what? I remember how it evolved into a true brotherhood because
Hmm.
Paul, if you remember when we first got online, you and I didn't get along that well because I couldn't do as many push-ups as you could, or or I couldn't hop over the fence when we were running away from things, and as a result, when we get back to the room, everybody would always fuss, and we take it out amongst ourselves. But as time went on, we learned to look out for each other and help each other, and it come together, and that friendship and that camaraderie and looking out for it built over those 10 weeks. And so, as we always say, we were one with 7 moving parts. It evolved into that.
And the best
Oh
thing
yeah.
about it is that it brought guys that we knew nothing about each other,
Hmm.
and now to being not only brothers but family, because this is 38 years later, and we still, you know, we we here today.
Yeah, and I think that's a whole the idea of that. Can strangers come together, becomes friends, and become family? And I think we're a living example of the truism of that theory right there. Because as I said, we didn't really know each other. We all on the campus. We all had different groups we hung out with and things like that. But once we got together, we bumped heads because we had to sort of learn each other's and who we were and things like that. But once that process began and we were committed to the process, that allows us to say be here today, because if you can commit to the process and one brother to another, and that's what it's all about. you know the true bonds of brotherhood is exhibited in Endangered Species daily.
The crucible of pain is a great motivator.
Oh yeah.
The wo- the wo- the wood is still good.
Oh, absolutely. 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 And you make a good point, because I think that what I guess to get across to the audience is that we pledged, in every sense of the word. And I think that's important to understand, that when you're talking about sororities and fraternities and the pledging back in the 80s, where everything was basically above ground, legal, expected, as far as that was concerned, and it wasn't for everybody. As I said, um, the brothers chose, I think, 11 guys to come on that line. That day one, only 9 guys was at the bell, and you come to the bell, you got your suit on, you got your grocery bag with all your stuff in your grocery bag. When the sun comes up, you're at the bell, and you're there till the sun goes down. That's commitment right there. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's present fish right there. But after day one, as we say, the bruh shook the tree. And when the bruh shook the tree, two fell out, and that's the process. That's the process. And the idea was we were committed, that, we don't love you any less because you can't hang with us, but this train moves forward. And I think the 7 of us after day one was committed to the train. Don't care what happened, how we got to go. If we got one box of chicken from churches, we all took a bite out of that chicken. We had one Coke, we all drank that one Coke. And that was expected as far as that was concerned.
Okay, in
And also,
2020, we got this thing going called coronavirus. How has
Hmm.
this COVID-19 affected each one of your lives and your family's lives?
Hmm. You know. Well, I guess like for me, like most everybody, you're just concerned about it. You're concerned about the risks and the potential, because anything could happen. It's a sightless kind of virus that floats around. But it's really just about being cautious. And what we've done, I mean, I work at a college, at Benedict College, and the college itself is very concerned. We have a whole committee who oversees safety on the campus for both students and faculty members. And then you got to carry that over to your home when it comes to sanitizing and social distancing and things like that. And so you learn to adapt. I mean, and that's what it boils down to. You don't, even things like this right here, normally we probably would have found our way up to Roanoke to visit Brother Cedric, as a group. But once again, because of the virus, you have to sort of do these alternative kinds of things, and so you just adjust and try to do the best you can.
I'm very
I agree.
concerned. Yes, I'm very concerned about the growing hotspots in New York and St. Louis, Missouri, respectively, where I'm from. As a leader in my church, we're checking temperatures, we're social distancing, we're wearing masks, we're sanitizing our hands, we're bumping our elbows, we're doing all the things that the governor has specified that we do so we can have worship. And we are also videoing and Facebook living and things like that, trying to stay connected through all of this. It's been very difficult. And it has also taught me to appreciate the time that we've had and the times that we're having together.
Same thing with the school system because we're fighting what we know is right and safe for students versus the community who wants their kids back in school by any means necessary, although it may not be the safest things for the students. So we're battling that, but we have to adjust to the schedules, and half the students come 2 days a week, the other half come 2 days. We have one day for deep cleaning of the schools, and so we have to monitor and adjust, but we have to make it work because these are the times we live in.
I was drafted to be president of the line simply because I came to the smoker last, and Spulu and KP had already put the line together, and they needed a president. And in my naivety, I said, "Well, if the line's already together, all you need is a president. I'll be that." Not knowing, and for those who may not know, the president received double for the mess ups and the good of the line. And I never could have made it without the brothers helping me stay in position because the president's seat was mighty hot. And
Okay, gentlemen, why
uh,
was
Oh
this?
You wore it well.
Oh, go ahead, Prez.
oh yes.
finally, what I did not know, that the heat that I took online prepared me in ways I'll never can express in seminary and leading folk in the church, because even though I've had some hot times and some difficult days, they were never as hot as those 10 weeks with the endangered species. So,
Oh
brothers,
yeah.
I
Oh yeah.
appreciate.
Coming from Benedict College, a small college that has grown tremendously, why is it so important that people look into colleges like Benedict College for that higher education?
I mean, I would say just for that, for higher education, but more importantly, a institution that's culturally sensitive to its people. I think it's an HBCU. A lot of time, first generation students, especially most out of South Carolina, Atlanta, maybe DC, places like that. But I think an institution like this gives people an opportunity to grow and advance themselves and their families and communities. And we can tell you story after story after story of folks from small towns coming or getting an opportunity at Benedict and doing very well with that opportunity. And that's what we do to this very day. We still a first generation institution for a lot of students, putting them on the path, building bonds and friendship, whether with fraternities or sports or other organizations. Those things still exist today, and we have student success today like we had in the past, and we hope that 30, 40 years from now, other students are having these same kind of conversations of reflection of how their experiences at Benedict have really shaped their lives, which is very important.
I like about HBCUs because I transferred to Benedict from a predominantly white institution to Benedict, and one of the things immediately Benedict did, and I think and I know all HBCUs do, is take away the excuse not doing something or not being able to do something. Because at other institutions, you can say that the professor doesn't like me because I'm black or whatever it is. But at HBCUs, when our professors look like us, and all the students in the class look like us, it gave you another sense of you had to pull yourself up and carry your own load and do everything yourself because you were competing with others who looked like you and who had made it, and you didn't want to be the weak link, and that you saw people who looked like you who were striving for this, and that you wanted to be a part of that too.
I didn't know I needed it at the time, but I needed the family atmosphere of Benedict College. I needed to know that the president understood my situation. I needed to know that my teachers understood. I needed to even know that the security guard would give me a break if necessary. And I got all those things at Benedict.
Y'all have done, each one of you have done a great job, and what y'all have done in society. And I just want to applaud each one of you what you've done. You know,
As well as for yourself, Paul.
I just give it honor to God. Just give honor to God. And what would be the most important thing that you would say that you have gained from being on that line of Spring '82?
Adapt, improvise, and overcome.
Absolutely. And,
Friendship
and,
is
and,
essential to the soul.
and I would simply say probably a never say die attitude. I mean, when you've gone through what we went through as a line, there's no adversity that you probably can face beyond that, or no challenge that you haven't seen before. There'll be good days and bad days, but you realize there'll also be a better day. And I think that process over those weeks and building the bonds translates into the real world, whether it's job, family, career, whatever. You've been hazed already, and they can't haze you no words. That Big Brother Midnight and those other cats. You understand me? So you've seen some stuff and you've gone through some stuff, and that really sets you up for all the life challenges that often do come.
Just remember you are facing just what other men have met.
Have met.
Oh yeah.
Indeed. That's right.
You may
Oh yes.
That's
fall,
right.
still
All
fighting,
still
don't give
fighting.
up. Whatever you do, eyes front, head high to the finish, see it through.
See
See
it
it
through.
through.
Ruth.
Yep.
Ruth.
Oh yeah.
And gentlemen, I just getting through that line with y'all. I know it was probably a lot of times where I felt like I wanted to give up, but this encouragement that I got from each one of you to just see it through, to make it that we make it through those 6 weeks, that really was the fun of it. The joy of just growing together.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That was the. Okay, we're running short on time, gentlemen. Brother
Paul,
Wilfred.
do you remember? Paul, do you remember? It was probably the last week we were online, and you and I had gone off campus, and we stopped to get something to eat. And then at that point, we just sat back and chilled because we realized that there was nothing else they could do to us that we couldn't overcome. And at that point, we just relaxed before we went back on campus. And that's what we had evolved into. Instead of being uptight and doing everything, we just sat, enjoyed the moment before we went on campus.
And that was the good part about it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we were getting close to the end, and it was like we took the best that they could have given us. We've grown tighter and tighter, and it's like we saw the ending to this whole thing, and it was only going to get better and better.
Yeah, and I would just add one other component to the entire thing is that what we went through for the most part was observed by the yard. Remember now, when we had our death march, the campus was there. We had our probate show. I mean, it was standing room only. And once we came out and we were the endangered species, we were brothers versus pledgees. We owned the campus because we had the respect of the yard. You know what I'm saying? They know we got it the right way. They know we was, that we put the work in, and they respected that. And you saw that in the responses that we got from all the GDIs on the yard. Everybody knew, oh yeah, you guys are good. You guys are good. And I think that right there is that other component of that solidifies that we put the work in and got respected for the work.
All right, gentlemen, we're running short on time. I'd like to thank Brother Leon Jeter, Brother Cedric Malone, Brother Wilfred Rogers, three of my brothers from the Endangered Species, Benedict College, Epsilon, Spring 82. And I just want to say I love y'all and the best wishes to each one of you and your family. And thank you for coming on the show. Thank you, audience, for watching the show. You be encouraged.